So in the last class we are started with energy strategy for the future. Energy strategy for the future. अब उसमें हम लोग देखा था immediate term strategy. Immediate term strategy like how quickly one can deal with the shortcomings that are there with the tariff structure for energy and other various aspects that are associated with the tariff structure for energy. So what can be the immediate term effects for that? How can you, go through them? Then we went on to the medium term solutions. That is what can be the medium term strategy in order to handle, energy for the future. Then the point that was left out was long term strategy. So what should be the long-term strategy in terms of dealing with energy strategy for the future? One second. So like first is efficient generation of energy resources. Energy resources that are there, efficient generation of power should happen from them. That is, efficiency should be very high. Efficiency should be very high means whatever is the amount of input you're giving, equivalent amount of output if you can get. That is, if 100% of input you're burning, and if you get 100% output power, that is the ideal efficient way of generation of energy resources. But that is not feasible or practical in real life scenario. But strategy should be like maximize the efficiency as much as possible. So for that, like efficient production of coal, oil, and natural gas should take place. So that means जगह जगह जहाँ पे quality coal, quality oil, quality वाला natural gas जहाँ से मिले उनको produce करो मतलब वहाँ से निकालो, refine करो, then उन लोग को use करो for energy generation, and the process should be also very much efficient. And these inputs, there is coal, oil, natural gas, they should be used in such a way that यहाँ इसमें जो ash content हो, hydrocarbon content हो, तुम्हारा sulfur content हो, nitrogen content हो, these should be eliminated, or these should be available. They should not be available in huge quantity. They should be available in minimum quantity, but it is very difficult to get such kind of resources. So your thing should be, while you utilizing these inputs, try to minimize the emission of hydrocarbons, volatile organic compounds, sulfur oxides, nitrogen oxides in order to produce energy generation. Then automatically your efficiency will be high, and your pollution will be also under very much control. Then second one is reduction of natural gas flaring. Natural gas flaring means it's a process sometimes when it, the volume, the temperature, and the pressure, while you're utilizing natural gas to produce electrical energy, then as you are utilizing natural gas, it may flare out. That is, volumetrically, it may expand out of the contained, of the sealed contained environment. So that should be one point of concern where one can control the certain outburst of natural gas that may happen while you're utilizing it for energy generation. Improving energy infrastructure, definitely. Infrastructure is the basis for development of any kind of network or framework. So number one, you have to build new refineries. Building new refineries. Refineries mean for coal, oil, and natural gas. Creation of urban gas transmission and distribution network. See, urban, basically, if natural gas can be, that is basically not only electrical energy, but the gaseous lines that are available. Gaseous lines that are available in most of our domestic houses. Like if direct gas connection can happen, So natural gas is there. From the natural gas only directly, if pipelines can be connected to every household for directly to the cylinders, then that could be pretty much good, isn't it? So no need to every time refuel the cylinder, that is you have to give order and all. Third is maximizing efficiency of rail transport of coal production. This is also one of the major aspects, economically speaking, because transportation is the one that can bring a huge amount of cost on the entire infrastructure. I can produce coal, I can dig out coal, I can refine the coal, I can heat the coal, and I can produce electrical energy. This process itself is not very cheap. It's expensive, and on top of that, transportation of coal from various places to other places, whether be it via roads or rails, also imposes a greater amount of expenditure on the system. So one should keep a focus on that, on how to reduce this transportation cost and all. Building new coal and gas fired power stations. Uh, Try to build up more and more power stations, mainly there, that's what they're speaking about, so that overall the generation becomes higher. That has already taken place in India. Then enhancing energy efficiency. So already these things, most of them have taken place. Transportation cost is still there. It's pretty high, the transportation cost of coal from one place to another place. And but there are many social and political and international aspects that are associated with it. So easily said, but not easily done like that. Then enhancing energy efficiency. Again, those same things. That is improving energy efficiency in accordance with national socio-economic and environmental priorities. That is, you got to improve the energy condition. You got to improve the efficiency of energy with respect to, by that is by taking into consideration your national aspect. That is right now what is the scenario, what is the national scenario that is in line. Then what can be the socio-economic things that are associated with environmental priorities. The same thing again, promoting of energy efficiency and emission standards, that is creating more and more awareness among people about the importance of energy efficiency and reduction of emission of air pollutants. Labeling programs for products and adoption of energy efficient technologies in large industries. Labeling means each and every device, each and every product should be labeled up. There should be ratings, its voltage rating, current rating, other various ratings that should be, that should be basically placed on these devices. So labeling means basically putting up any kind of tag on the device. Tag means not price tag, but rating tag. What can I say? There is a 3-phase induction motor. So there is a nameplate rating always provided on the 3-phase induction motor. So that is also labeling. You are putting a nameplate on the induction motor, and that nameplate carries the rating of the induction motor. So that will be easily visible. Like if you do not put any kind of labels on devices, then immediately if any kind of maintenance, repair, or any kind of service is required out of that device, and there are several other devices, you won't have any idea about how to handle them. So, deregulation and privatization of energy sector, this we have discussed already. That is basically previously it used to be a one man one policy, but later on it got restructured and deregularized. That is, lots of privatized sectors were allowed to enter into the market, and the business was spread out between them also. So like number one, reducing cross subsidies on oil products and electricity tariffs. So one got to reduce cross subsidy on oil product and electricity tariff. Otherwise, sufficient amount of revenue from them won't be generated to aid the government, and as a result, expansion of power sector will be affected. For that, money is required. Decontrolling coal prices and making natural gas prices competitive. That is basically why should coal only dominate the market? There should be effective competition, so that there is always a choice. There is always some sort of alternative that may be available to people in terms of choosing energy resources. And in that way, if the market becomes competitive, automatically at one point of time, to beat one product, the price of the other product may come down. So that can be beneficiary also. While at the same time, one has to maintain the quality. Then again, privatization of oil, coal, and power sectors for improved efficiency. That is, private sectors can also, produce. They can dig out coal, oil, and they can use them for power generation. And again, the same thing. There is investment legislation to attract foreign investments. There is streamlining approval process for attracting private sector participation in power generation, transmission, distribution. Nothing but it means that is making the system flexible, making the system transparent, so that trust and many trust can be earned from not only national private sector companies, but also from foreign private sector companies who will be willingly ready to invest into power sector of our country, and that can be beneficial for us and definitely beneficial for them also. Then next one is Energy Conservation Act 2001 and its features. So already we have discussed Electricity Act 2003. Now there was one Energy Conservation Act that came up in 2001. So we will slightly discuss them. With the background of high energy saving potential and its benefits, bridging the gap between demand and supply, reducing environmental emissions through energy saving, and to effectively overcome the barrier, the Government of India has enacted the Energy Conservation Act 2001. Okay. So just like Electricity Act 2003, Energy Conservation Act 2001 was brought out in the year 2001, and this was mainly to basically reduce the gap between demand and supply. That is, demand jitna hoga, supply bhi utna hi hona chahiye. Reducing air pollutants, that is emissions, via energy saving and via effective energy resources substitution also. That is, in place of coal, oil, one can use coal, one can use solar and wind also for power generation and all. And even for emissions also, instead of petrol, diesel, if we can go for battery operated devices and all, then in that way, lots of emissions can be controlled. And to effectively overcome the barrier, the Government of India has enacted the Energy Conservation Act 2001. The Act provides the much needed legal framework and institutional arrangement for embarking on an energy efficiency drive. So basically this Act was brought out in order to make this, in order to strengthen the legal framework of energy conservation. Okay. So the main points I will just discuss with you. One is standards and labeling. Some features of Energy Conservation Act, like now one is standards and labeling. One second. Standards and labeling has been identified as a key activity for energy efficiency improvement. That is, designing devices and products with respect to required standards, and then providing them with required nameplate ratings or required labels where their characteristics will be visible to the people handling those devices or products. The SNL program, when in place, would ensure that only energy efficient equipment and appliance would be made available to the consumers. So what happens is that with this, you can compare. If labels are put out on devices and products, then based on those labels put out on devices and products, one can easily find out that, say, if I've got two bulbs, bulb A consumes, bulb A can, enlighten the entire room, but with lesser amount of energy consumption, whereas bulb B can also enlighten the entire room, but with a higher energy consumption. So how much luminous intensity the bulbs are supposed to give out, those can be presented on the nameplate rating on the bulbs. How much energy consumes, how much energy consumption happens with respect to each bulb, if that can be put out on the label part of the bulbs, then that will be beneficial. So in that way, one can easily differentiate between the required devices, that which device to use. Definitely the one which gives the same output with less energy consumption, that will be used. So the main provision of EC Act on standards and labeling are: number one, evolve minimum energy consumption. That is, what it tried to do. Main provision of EC Act on standard labeling is mainly to identify the differences between different types of products and devices in terms of energy consumption and output. So one that gives utilizes minimum energy consumption with the same output is the one that should be preferred. So that's what number 1 point is trying to say. Evolve minimum energy consumption and performance standards for notified equipment and appliances. Number 2, prohibit manufacture, sale and import of such equipment. Prohibit manufacture, sale and import of such equipment which does not conform to the standards. That means identification of the products and devices which are not up to the standard. Third is introduce a mandatory labeling scheme. Third is introduce a mandatory labeling scheme for notified equipment appliances to enable consumers to make informed choices. Okay, so introduce a mandatory labeling scheme for notified equipment appliances to enable consumers to make informed choices. That is already so that it is practically visible to the consumers and they can easily choose out the required equipments and devices. And last point is disseminate information on the benefits to the consumers. That is convey informations on benefits of energy conservation to consumers. Then next point is like designated consumers. The main provisions of the Energy Conservation Act on designated consumers are: number 1, the government would notify energy intensive industries and other establishments as designated consumers. So the domestic people are exempted out, and establishments, there is standard offices and buildings and intensive industries, they are the ones which would be considered as designated consumers. That is where kVA and kilowatt hour both can be applied. Okay. There is domestic consumers. We are mainly charged on the basis of per day kilowatt hour, whereas for designated consumers, they will be required to pay the electricity tariff based on kVA and kilowatt hour both. Second is schedule to the act provides list of designated consumers which covered basically energy intensive industries, railway, port trust, transport sector, power stations, transmission and distribution companies, and commercial buildings or establishments. So one has to schedule to the act and provide the list of designated consumers. What are the list of designated consumers? Like you can have various energy intensive industries, railways, port trust, transport sector, power stations, transmission and distribution companies, commercial buildings or establishments. They can be taken up as your designated consumers. Okay. Yeah, it got disconnected. Net got disconnected, guys. Okay. So energy audit is actually a process via which one can, conduct or monitor how much energy the establishment has consumed and whether it has surpassed the maximum limit or not. And if the building or the establishment or the industry has consumed lots of energy, then how to reduce that. So overall together, an inspection kind of a thing. Audit means an inspection basically takes place or is conducted on the industry or the establishment via which one can monitor and analyze about the energy consumption pattern of that industry or establishment, and whether and if the If excessive amount of energy, if it is found out that the establishment has consumed excessive amount of energy, then the energy auditor will chalk out a presentation and will chalk out some ways and will give those ways to the establishment manager. That is, what are the ways by which one can reduce the energy usage. That is, one can reduce the energy consumption. And after that, a certain time period is given to the industry or to the establishment. And after a few months, the energy auditor comes back. There is the audit team, energy audit team comes back and inspects whether they have followed the guidelines, as the industry or the establishment have followed the guidelines which were provided to them by the energy audit team. Okay. So for that, for this, but that is this can happen pretty suddenly, whereas this energy audit can happen without giving maybe prior information to the establishment or to the industry. And the energy auditor along with his team comes and inspects and conducts the energy audit of the entire establishment and produces a detailed report about the entire thing. Now, if there are some sort of discrepancies or there are some sort of mistakes that are found out, then one needs to be taken care of. So the industry or the establishment also must be ready for such kind of a process. Whereas any day the energy audit team can come and can create this inspection, can create pressure on them, can point out fingers at them for for misutilization of energies, for not keeping an attention on their energy consumption and all. So for that, energy managers are kept by the designated consumers. There is every designated consumer always keeps a energy manager. So energy managers with prescribed qualification are required to be appointed or designated by the designated consumers. Okay. Designated consumers would comply with norms and standards of energy consumption as prescribed by the central government. So there are certain guidelines via which one has to stick, and that is the job of that is this all these things are taken care of by energy managers, and energy manager is the one solely responsible for maintenance of required energy consumption, nothing more, nothing less, and so that the designated consumer does not fall into any kind of problem when energy audit happens. For that, certain certification all do happen also. Guys, okay, this is last, then I will discuss some important questions for your internal. Okay. The main activities in this regard as investigated are in the Act, that is a cadre of professionally qualified energy managers and auditors with expertise in energy efficiency, policy analysis, project management, financing and implementation of energy efficiency projects. Again, it got disconnected, guys. Again, it got disconnected. So a cadre of professionally qualified energy managers and auditors with expertise in policy analysis, project management, financing and implementation of energy efficiency projects. That is, experienced people who have worked in energy efficiency fields are the ones that will be mainly preferred, especially when they want to become energy managers or they want to become energy auditors. And also for that, they need to go through the certification accreditation program that is conducted at national level. B, there is Bureau of Energy Efficiency to design training modules and conduct a national level examination for certification of energy managers and energy auditors. B is the one, there is the organization which mainly teaches about or mainly gives out these training modules for upcoming energy managers and auditors. And they are the ones who basically conduct a national level examination in order to certify energy managers and energy auditors. Okay. Today up to this, then I want to just stay a little bit. I will discuss some important question answers for the intern. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. I'm just opening them. If you want, you can take a note of it. Like previously, we have discussed about primary energy sources. So primary energy sources are the ones from which secondary energy sources can be developed. So what are the primary energy sources? Like coal, oil, natural gas, they can be your primary energy sources. So what can be your secondary energy sources? Like utilizing coal or natural gas, we can produce steam and electricity. So in that way, steam, electricity, they can be your, there is steam and electricity. Just listen to me, okay? Just listen to me, and if you want, you can take a note of it. So steam, electricity are the examples of secondary energy sources. Okay, then if you remember the term commercial energy, like what is commercial energy? Any kind of energy resource that is available in the market for some sort of price is known as commercial energy. Okay, that is available in the commercial market at some sort of price is your commercial energy. Then second, you can have non-commercial energy, just the opposite, the energy source or resource that you can have in the market, but the energy source or resource that is not available in the commercial market for any kind of price, that means you can collect it from the nature itself at free of cost. That is known as non-commercial energy. Okay. Then another thing, like whenever energy consumption of a certain country increases, that means more and more energy production capability is increasing. More and more people are able to buy energy. That means it's a good indication of GDP development. That is, more and more GDP of the country is going higher. Okay. So if the energy consumption is high, that means GDP is also high in that country. It is going well. High tension consumers, basically, if you remember, designated consumers or high tension consumers, there is industries and establishments. For them, the electricity tariff is laid out in both kVA and kilowatt hour. For high tension consumers, the electricity tariff that they have to pay is based on kVA and kilowatt hour. Whereas if you go to low tension consumers, then for like us, the low tension consumers are mainly charged on the basis of kilowatt hour only. Then from power systems 3, there is restructuring of power systems module. If you remember, there we had discussed monopoly, CERC. CERC stands for Central Electricity Regulatory Commission. CERC stands for Central Electricity Regulatory Commission. This we went through this energy management note also. That is why CERC is set up. Okay. Similarly, SCRC means State Electricity Regulatory Commission. SCRC means State Electricity Regulatory Commission. So various states are there. All the states will have their own electricity regulatory commissions, which will monitor the regulations and processes and refinement of electricity structure happening in all the states. And all those state electricity regulatory commissions, they have to produce a report to the boss. Boss is mainly one, that is your Central Electricity Regulatory Commission only. Then in Electricity Act 2003, I had discussed the first point, that is the central government. When Electricity Act 2003 came out, then number one point that was stated out there was that the central government is to prepare a national electricity policy in consultation with state governments. So this feature belonged to Electricity Act 2003. Then if you remember, we were discussing about the harmful pollutants that can be generated if we burn fossil fuel to generate energy. If we use petrol, then if we use oil, if we use diesel, then what are the harmful pollutants that can be generated? So in that we had discussed about volatile organic compounds that are mainly generated, especially with respect to vehicles, automotive vehicles, where due to improper burning of fuel, basically these volatile organic compounds, they stand for, and short form is VOC. VOC stands for volatile organic compound. Then also we saw that the various oxides of sulfur, that is SOX, various oxides of sulfur, that is SOX, and various oxides of nitrogen, that is NOx. SOX and NOx were the principal contributors of acid rain. So these are the few important topics that I want to discuss with you. And next day I shall complete that Electricity Act 2001 and that Electricity Act 2000. This entire module I've given in the ERP, in your ERP. So kindly have a check at that. Okay. So today up to this much, guys. Okay. Thank you.